And we'll flip it over to the Chiefs because it doesn't help the Ravens that last year the Chiefs stepped on the proverbial rake against the Lions. And they're prone to that. We saw them lose at home on Christmas Day against the Raiders. The idea that we just show up and didn't the other team get the memo, this is supposed to be our celebration. They need to go along with this. They need to play the role of the Washington Generals to our Harlem Globetrotters. That isn't always the case. And I remember last year when the Lions came out before the game, I'm thinking, is it too late to change the pick? Because there's just a different vibe coming from the Lions than I expected.
Yes.
And
energetic, and they were they were bigger than we thought in person, and you could tell they were in no way in fear of the moment or anything like that.
And the Ravens are going to have some of that too, but the Chiefs, I think, would have learned a valuable lesson from that. This is chapter 1 of a 17-chapter book, and postseason as the epilogue, but I think the Chiefs, knowing that they are staring at the opportunity to make history, even though it's not something that Andy Reid wants them to be thinking about actively at some level, how can you not be thinking, this is our chance? And they've never been dominant. They've never made it look easy. And I just wonder if there's a quiet determination this year that almost like some of the stuff we've heard from Brock Purdy out loud, the 49ers quarterback, I want to be dominant. The Chiefs maybe aren't going to say that. They're just going to go out and do it. And it's easier said than done because you've got an opponent that isn't going to comply with everything you're trying to do. But we see what they can do when they have to.
Yeah, that's right.
If they can muster that have to earlier in a game, earlier in a season, this is a team that could be dominant if they could just put it all together on a regular basis.
I mean, I agree with you there.
They play with their food.
Right.
It's time to bring that phrase back because we've seen the Chiefs play with their food time and again.
They're the kings of letting teams that are lesser than them hang around and be in football games, right? That's what we laugh about on so many Sundays where we're like, oh, the Chiefs are killing this team, and here we are in the third quarter, and they've messed around, and they're only up by 4. I think we'll see a different Chiefs team than we saw last year altogether. I think you bring up a lot of points there that are real good. And I think the first thing is just being in Kansas City last week with Mahomes, going to practice a little bit, right? I think first off, they embraced the talk of the three-peat. They're not afraid of it. It wasn't like when I had my interview with Mahomes, he was like, oh, we're not going to talk about that yet, right? It wasn't like the New England Patriots type of answer or anything like that. It is like, hey, it's special. We want it. We know this is nobody's done this. And they kind of embrace that. And I do think that is going to be a motivating factor for them throughout the year. It's a way they can separate their dynasty from any other dynasty. It's a way Mahomes can separate himself from Brady in some ways if he doesn't catch him at 7. Hey, I got 3 in a row. Nobody did that. So I think there's a lot of that, let alone that I think the Chiefs know what they're about to deal with here in that the Ravens are coming to town, like you said. This next week after that is the Cincinnati Bengals. So they're going, wait, we better be ready. The first 2 games of the year are 2 teams that could be the difference between home field advantage and the playoffs. So I think between that and then the lesson they learned last year in Detroit, or with Detroit coming here and being ready, I think you're right. And then also on top of that, something we hit on a little bit, they have that they have a whole season. We talk about it in a game format sometimes of the season really wasn't that good last year. The coach and Mahomes have free reign to kind of keep the hot poker on everybody's ass and be like, we didn't even play that good last year, but we won the Super Bowl, right? So there's a lot of, I think, good coaching moments that they've had throughout training camp, going back watching last year, going, look, we won the Super Bowl, but we didn't even do this good all season on the offensive side of the ball. And I think that has led them to more motivation as well, which is scary. When Mahomes starts saying we're going to attack and we want to attack and we got faster receivers and all of that, they're going to try to reinvent themselves here a little bit this year and show you a different side than what we've seen the last 2 years, which is, a little more short passing game.
Andy Reid is 9-2 in regular season openers with the Kansas City Chiefs, and he's only had 6 of those with Patrick Mahomes. And again, they lost last year. All the more reason to expect that they'll be ready
Chubb's
to go.
Tony, of course, Kadarius is a huge thing, right? It wasn't like they didn't show up last year.
Right.
They weren't their best, but they blew opportunities and didn't show up in
the
the
Lions
big moments.
capitalized. The Lions capitalized on the opportunities that were given.
Right.
And the next thing you know, they're in a game that they ultimately can't win. But when you look at the schedule, they've got those 2 big games right out of the gates.
Yeah.
Then they go to Atlanta. We'll see them week 3 Sunday Night Football. They're at the Chargers, which will not be an easy game against Jim Harbaugh and company. And then they're at the Saints on a Monday night, and they go into their bye. They have an early bye. So this is almost like a mini postseason to start the regular season.
Right.
Let's just take care of business. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, get to 4-1 or 5-0 ideally, although it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. 3-2 could happen through the first 5 games. And then comes the rest of the slate. It's not crippling, but there's some games on there. They have a Super Bowl rematch in San Francisco coming out of their bye week. They play a Buccaneers team that is woefully underrated, I think, at this point. Their division rivals aren't going to lay down. They go to Kansas City. They've got the Texans. That's another NBC game. We're going to see them a lot this year, and that's good because they're fun to watch. But this could be the year that maybe they're not fun to watch. This could be the year that they figure out on a consistent basis how to put it together. They don't mess around. They don't care. They take care of business. The thing, though, is if they happen to be a dominant force for the first time under Mahomes and Reid, that's a little more dangerous when the postseason rolls around, because I think the fact that they do learn how to play through close games and win the games they have to win, that helps them in the postseason. They have a pretty good catalog of experience from past years that I think will come in handy if they get to the postseason, and they haven't been tested this year. But there is value in being tested in some of these games because they know when to press the right button. They know when to make it happen when they need to make it happen. Well, and they almost I think they get addicted to that feeling.
I think they're addicted to it, yet they're like numb to the pressure of it. And I think your point is like what you're talking about. We talked in the 2 Super Bowls ago. Chiefs, Eagles. The thing we worried about in the game was what? The Chiefs were battle tested. Remember, we were saying that.
Eagles had it too easy.
Eagles, it was so easy. We wondered, wait, if that game got late in the fourth quarter, will they be like, oh, wait, what? We're in a close football game or we're losing? And how are we going to react? And, of course, we know they didn't react to their best here. The Chiefs, we really – the first year Mahomes came into the league, that was a year I think we saw them not play with their food. And, of course, they had some other times as well. But yeah, fully dominant, like seems like they take care of business week in, week out, dominate football teams that way. They've never quite been that way. You're right. It's like they get bored. They get a little bored at times during the football season. But I think with this three-peat hovering over them, and then the fact that it's the Ravens, the Bengals, and then even sneaky go to Atlanta and deal with that, where you don't think Raheem Morris and Kirk Cousins aren't going to want to show everybody like, hey, look.
Will he work Tuesday that week?
Well, he might.
I really want to know if he's working Tuesdays in Atlanta. Having Michael Penix Jr. hovering over his shoulder would tend to motivate a guy to work on Tuesdays.
We'll find out if he did or if he does. But I think all those things have led
if you go to Atlanta to interview Cousins the week of that game, I want you to promise me that you will ask him if he's now working on Tuesdays.
Okay. All right. I will.
You won't.
I will.
You won't.
I will. I'll ask it. I'll say it's from you.
You'll say it's from me. That's
exactly
the thing.
Right.
That's the perfect way to do it. Go ahead.
Florio wants to know.
Go ahead. Because that's the great cover. Then he won't be mad at you.
But I do.
Blame it on me.
I will. Trust me. No problem there. I got you.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.